Pokémon Legends Z-A has been out for close to 2 weeks. There are 100% spoilers in this video and probably on the thumbnail too, but hey, I'm notsoAceTrainer. I've talked to everyone in the game and here is every single reference. Let's get into it. The references will be presented by sections and we'll start with the ones that refer to the world of Pokemon X and Y and Kalos in general. And so, let's put on some Lumiose City jazz and start. Lida says she's a dancer and mentions her big brother but never really follows through with the story, but it implies that she's mentioning Tierno. When she battles us, she sends out a Vanillite, which might indeed be another reference at Tierno's shirt in X and Y. Tierno is also mentioned by this NPC who lets us know he's now making waves in Unova. This NPC here mentions that Sycamore has resigned from his position at the Pokemon Research Lab. It is also mentioned by another NPC that he and Trevor went to some far-off region for research. Hisui and Sinnoh are also mentioned, with one NPC also wondering where they are now. These two NPCs actually have the same dialogue that they have in X and Y, while this one mentions that this machine used to show records of individual trainers, referencing the machine this guy was working on back in X and Y too. The professor's lab has a lot of references to Team Flare, from the very own Mabel, her laptop, and even her goggles and chair. It also has some references to Professor Sycamore himself, with some references even to the anime's Garchomp. Eventually, Mabel also follows the footsteps of Sycamore and gives us a Kanto starter just like he did in X and Y. Mabel isn't the only one that is sporting the Team Flare logo though, as when we go to Nouveau Cafe, we also see it, because well, Team Flare Nouveau is a thing in this game. Grisham and Griselle also appear to mimic the Team Flare grunt pose when they start a battle. There are also references to Bonnie and Clement near the prison tower, like these NPCs saying they were very close, with this NPC here wondering if he's been inventing anything new. Diantha and her career are also referenced by this NPC here, with her latest movie The Suffering of a Carnation being advertised too, with some NPCs not being able to wait for it. The GoGo shuttle service from Old Lumiose is also referenced multiple times. This NPC misses it and let us know it ended up being removed due to the GoGo acting skittish because of all the new Pokemon. In fact, in Side Mission 63, we actually meet a few old employees, which we also meet here next to these NPCs. Side Mission 10 talks about the Skiddo that would become those GoGoat in Old Lumiose City, in a way also referencing the Skiddo riding in Route 12. The taxi battles from X and Y are also referenced by an NPC and we get to experience our own taste of the past in Side Mission 88, the Nervous Novice Cabbie. The Juicy Shop is mentioned on Side Mission 112 and its Perilous Soup by this NPC. Frieza Furfrou is mentioned during Side Mission 103 after that battle against the Furfrou champion. Sky battles are referenced during Side Mission 69 when we have a modern version of this lost art. The herb shop that used to exist in Lumiose City is referenced on Side Mission 8. Pokepuffs are also mentioned by this NPC and this other NPC. Super Training even has a mention by this NPC right here, and Rhyhorn Racing is mentioned here and here together with our mom Grace from X and Y. Trainer PR videos are referenced by this NPC, while this NPC right here questions the disappearance of O powers. Battle tests also get a mention, being a reference not only to Kalos but also Unova. The roller skates, of course, also get a mention by this NPC and this other one. Emma references the events of the X and Y postgame where Xerosic entrusted her with the expansion suit and his Pokemon in order for her to protect Lumiose City. In Looker's bureau, there's also pictures of Mimi with both Looker and Xerosic, while the picture that she has of Mimi on her desk reminds us of Looker's photo of his Krogunk. She also uses Xerosic's Malamar, now capable of Mega Evolution in battle. Her former gang, the Lumiose Gang, is referenced by this NPC right here, while Looker is mentioned both not by his codename with this NPC, but mentioned here by his codename. In the Lumiose Museum, we can find a whole bunch more references to places in Kalos, but outside of Lumiose, such as Laver City, the Perfume Palace, the Tower of Mastery with someone that looks like Callum, and even a replica of Lucario's statue, and also the Glittering Cave, which, by the way, is also referenced to the sewer's theme being the same as the place that has all that luminous moss. There are replicas of Pokeballs with a painting of the Pokeball factory. There's also a painting of the Kalos power plant. There is also reference to Coumarin City. The painting of the descendant of the king's younger brother is a reference to Lysander's family and ancestry. Other locations in Kalos are mentioned during Side Mission 73 like Miroir Way, the Lost Hotel, and the Winding Woods. Wild Zone 19 also appears to be somewhat of a reference to the Perfume Palace, as it has Furfrou and a maze-like design. The Azure Bay is also referenced by this NPC. AZ landing as a Lucario and giving us a Mega Ring to Mega Evolve against Rogue Mega Absol is a reference to Korrina doing the same in Shalor City and the Tower of Mastery in Pokemon X and Y. In fact, later in the game, after everything is said and done, AZ leaves us the Lucario and a letter explaining who it belonged to and why it had it. When we check the Lucario's OT, it says Korrina. Korrina is also mentioned during Side Mission 96, as she is a trainer that would shout "Let's give it all we've got" before a battle. There are also many references to the events of 5 years ago. Corbeau references Lysander's past life and also confirms that the events of X and Y happened 5 years ago, as does this NPC right here. This is done once more by Tarragon during the tournament quest, where he mentions Lysander by name and that he is the leader of Team Flare that failed to create the world of his dreams, followed by Canary mentioning his use of the ultimate weapon 5 years before, with Jacinthe of course mentioning his celebrity status. Emma also refers to him and Team Flare after we defeat her, and Jet alludes to them as well when explaining Quasartico's role in Lumiose City. Some NPCs also complained about the whole disaster, like this one and this one. Grisham's profile picture is taken where the ultimate weapon was activated in X and Y, and he also mentions the ultimate weapon when we battle him in a reward match. Open Sesame is still the password for the hidden door at Lysander's cafe. And of course, the elevator key is still missing, as Mabel tells us, which is funny because she was the one that gave it to us in Pokemon X and Y when we defeated her. Mabel talks about her role in Team Flare, mentioning about working with Pokemon Energy, something we found out in X and Y when we find her bothering an Abomasnow in the Frost Cavern. Inside Lysander Labs, we find a stone that has been taken from the Menhir Trail, or Route 10 that is close to Geozench Town, and also find the cell where AZ was held back then. At the end, we find information about the ultimate weapon, and see Yveltal and Xerneas sleeping forms on screen. Lysander then references the destruction caused by the ultimate weapon that buried the secret base while he was in there, and then gave us a reason as to why Zygarde was just down the Terminus Cave and nothing more. It had saved everyone and everything. In our battle against Lysander, it mentions the group of children that stopped him 5 years before, expressing regret. The Holocast appears to have been created thanks to Tony's or Urbane's mom. There are also references to the events of AZ's past, with El or Lysander mentioning AZ's sins when we meet him for the first time in front of Hotel Z. AZ, as the game progresses, also starts referencing it as if coming to terms with his life. This happens once more when AZ is gazing at the Prism Tower, or Ange as he knows it. While telling us about Team Flare, Grisham not only mentions what happened with Lysander's descent into madness, but also how AZ created the weapon. Eventually, AZ himself tells us this story, even showing us scenes from that cool cutscene from X and Y. The tower's control center is reminiscent of its eventual gravestone, which also has the symbol of the Eternal Flower. During the final stage of the battle against Ange Floette, it takes a form reminiscent of the ultimate weapon. AZ wanting the ZA Royale to continue is likely a reference to how a Pokemon battle was the way he was finally able to recover his Floette and understand what being a trainer truly was. Mega Crystals also appear to be somewhat of a reference to the Anistar Sundial due to their connection to Mega Power and their color, and also maybe Diancie. Seabold is also referenced at Hotel Richissime, and he is also referenced by the NPC that tells us he left the Elite Four to polish his culinary skills. Side mission 42 mentions a famous fairy type user that designs fashion, which means Valerie, the Lever gym leader, and she is mentioned again here in this poster. There are also references to the Ghost Girl, with one of taxi driver Zach's stories being about the mysterious tale, even telling us about the new Ghost Girl story, this time the taxi Ghost Girl story that shows up in the backseat of a taxi and kinda says the same thing. And finally, this NPC mentions the Pokemon fan club that existed in Kalos. Now let's move on with references to other regions, starting with Galar. Galar is referenced many times. First, Bolton is in Zack's jacket, followed by Galar curry when your rival cooks their fantastic creation. Its food is mentioned once again when this girl references mushroom medley curry. Galar is once again referenced when Jacinthe references Leon, the former champion of Galar, and this NPC also mentions that he got lost when he visited Lumiose City, with this one mentioning how his battle with Ryan was the best she ever saw, while this one mentions our victory over unbeatable Leon. Side mission 72 is a reference to how Stunfisk, Galarian Stunfisk, is caught in Galar. Side mission 75 mentions the Isle of Armor, Galarica, and the NPC that has you collect a bunch of them to make you Galarica cuff. This NPC mentions a pesky Galarian that did something that could be avenging his ancestors. At first, I thought he was referencing Swordward and Shieldburg, but they are two, not one, so I think he was speculating about Rose's actions in Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. These NPCs mention Galar and also Paldea as possible next destinations. The Maximizers are mentioned here by this NPC since they are on tour, but Galarian music doesn't end there, and so Pierce is also referenced here by this stand owner. The Galar Battle Tower is mentioned here and Dynamaxing as well. Some Galarian Pokemon are also not present in the game but are mentioned in the game, like this Thievul right here, this Galarian Zigzagoon, and this Wooloo and this Wooloo Beret. When we read Daisy's letter after everything is said and done, it mentions the darkest day in Galar. That is all for Galar. Now let's move on to the good old land of Hisui and also Sinnoh. Here, during Side Mission 1, it is referenced as some faraway region where alphas used to exist. The Lumiose Museum, though, is where things go a little insane. As soon as you enter, you see Hisui's map and are told there is an exhibit about it. There, you can find the Galaxy Team flag, the portraits of the Diamond and Pearl Clan founders, as well as the hero's portrait. Hairstyles of the time, Kamado's kimono and also Kamado's armor, which ends up referencing Wickstrom from the Kalos Elite Four, as well as hint at poor relations between Galar and Kalos at the time. There are the Celestica ruined statues of Dialga and Palkia, together with the almighty Sinnoh moniker. The strange glyphs we see all around the map are there as well. Weirdly enough, you also have Volo's outfit, and it is implied that the man is alive as he was the one that gave it to the museum. There are paintings of the ancient quarry, the Temple of Sinnoh, with references to the battle that happened there at the end of Pokémon Legends Arceus' main story. There are sketches drawn by Professor Laventon, ancient balls, the protagonist's clothing. There is Potato Moshi with a reference to Sudfoot roots, with even a reference to Old Verse 13, a crafting bench, and even a satchel such as the one we used with a reference to Baggin, the guy that could increase your satchel size. There is a model of General Store, drawings of Jubilife Village and many of its areas like the training grounds with a reference to Ingo and the fact that it came back home one day. The hairdresser is there as well, a regular home, the fields, and even Prelude Beach. When interacting with Hisui map number 2, there is a possible reference to Hisuian Braviary, as that is the Pokemon we used to survey from above. Hisui is once again referenced through a painting of Professor Laventon during one of our jobs for the Rust Syndicate to help out with Tony's debt. And this NPC right here uses his phrase, "Pokemon are terrifying creatures." Hisui is then mentioned again when Emma tells Ivor they are not in ancient Hisui when Ivor wants to basically knock out a Klefki with his Pokeball. It is also heavily referenced on the Rust Syndicate's office, with the Lucky Sneasel statue being of an Hisuian Sneasel, there being an Overquill vase, and also the Bronzor mirror being there, which also kinda references Sinnoh, I guess. Speaking of Sinnoh, Professor Rowan is mentioned by this NPC right here. With Hisui and Sinnoh out of the way, let's move on to the good old Gen 5 Unova. So there are also some references to Unova, like the Ingo one I mentioned already, and one NPC saying that the multi-trains are back up and running. But also the fact that many restaurant-related quests, such as our promotion match to rank V and side mission 18, are also related to the elemental monkeys, of course introduced in black and white and associated with Striaton City and its restaurant-inspired gym and gym leaders. The Castilia cone is also mentioned by this NPC right here, with this one being fascinated by tales of Unova. There is also of course Herdier on the same billboard as Thievul and Galarian Zigzagoon. Done with Unova, we're now sailing back to Paldea and the world of Pokémon Scarlet and Pokémon Violet. Paldea is also referenced many times. For example, when you get to the Rust Syndicate, you can see a statue of King Gambit. This NPC is suggesting a treasure hunt in Paldea, just like we did in Scarlet and Violet. Iono is referenced by this guy right here. There are also many references to Paldean food, with this NPC here saying that wasabi is used as a sauce over there, and also there being some references to sandwiches. La Primera is referenced by this NPC, and Terrasol is mentioned here versus Mega Evolution, who would win. This NPC here mentions the parents of the owner of the Sushi High Roller that run a sushi restaurant as well on another place, which, since the Alolan Sushi High Roller is already mentioned later, could be the Paldean Sushi High Roller. This man has collected 1000 coins in Paldea, a reference to Gimmighoul's evolution method. Brassius and his work are also mentioned here by this NPC, and this one right here confirms something we all suspected, that Kalos is right past these mountains in the Paldea region. With Paldea and Kalos' proximity confirmed, finally, we move on to the Johto region. The first reference I saw of Johto was where the Laventons painting was, since the frame had a Noctowl ornament. Another missing Pokemon from Johto that is referenced is Smeargle on the same billboard as all of the other ones. It is once more referenced by this NPC who says she's nothing like the Furisode girls from Johto, referencing the Kimono girls. Kurt and his Pokeballs are also mentioned by this NPC, and this scene with the Clefairy all together at night reminded me of the Clefairy Easter egg at Mount Moon in Gen 2. Not a lot of Johto, and so we jump right into Alola. Alola is referenced by Lysander in the postgame after we catch Zygarde. It talks about the different lands that Zygarde went to, even comparing Nihilite, its new move, to Z moves. Which might also explain why in Japanese the move's name is the light that returns to nothing, with Necrozma Z move being the light that burns the sky. This is once more mentioned by this NPC right here, with this one mentioning that he saw a squishy green thing in Alola, meaning Zygarde, and maybe even referencing the anime as it had its own squishy. Alola is once again referenced during side mission 44, as it is a good place for that specific Vanillite perfume. Then it is referenced during side mission 108 as the member of Charge mentions Alolan pancakes when we defeat her. This NPC mentions a strange souvenir from Alola, and this one references the Sushi High Roller restaurant from Alola as well. From Alola, we move on to the OG region and talk about Kanto and all of the references related to it. Kanto is mentioned during side mission 102 as the trainers referencing Lorelei from the Elite Four with her quotes. While not exclusively Kanto related, the Safari Zone is mentioned by this NPC. The Silphco is also mentioned here, clearly being the Fist of Justice choice for bulk Pokeball shopping. And finally, the least referenced one, the Hoenn region. Hoenn is referenced by Constance during side mission 104 when she talks about AZ having traveled to Hoenn, and this kid questions us if Mega Evolution didn't start in Hoenn. And now to end the video, here are some references and Easter eggs that are not really related to a region specifically. The power of Science Guy makes a return in this game, continuing his streak. The hollow statues on top of the Wild Zone and Battle Zone pillars are references to the OG statues found in many Pokemon games, but first in Gen 1 on top of pillars themselves. Emma does the Naruto run. In the Lumiose Museum, you can find a Diancie painting that resembles Johannes Vermeer, the girl with the pearl earring, a Serena painting that resembles Claude Monet, La Promenade, and a Gothitel line and Maitiana painting that resembles Renoir, Madame Charpentier and her children. The first rogue Pokemon being Mega Absol makes sense as Absol shows up to warn humans of disasters. One of the statues outside of the Rust Syndicate's office is Weezing, making it the second time Weezing shows up in a Legends game but isn't part of it, as Galarian Weezing also showed up in the Galaxy headquarters in Pokémon Legends Arceus. When you enter Hotel Richissime, their logo is similar to the pattern Naveen has on his tie, hinting at a possible connection or simply his admiration for their clothing. Luxury is so important for the upper class that even the trophy for Le Super Tournoi de Jacinthe is based on a luxury ball. The new shape that Prism Tower takes makes it resemble more a tree, getting it closer to the Norse mythology references in Kalos, and thus Yggdrasil, the mythical tree. On top, it resembles both Xerneas antlers and Yveltal's spread wings, possibly referencing both Eikthyr, a stag that stands atop Valhalla, and Vedrfolnir, an eagle who stands atop the tree. It could also reference the spread wings of an angel, as that is what Ange means. Lysander/L kinda resembles Blood Moon Ursaluna in a way, and both seem to have taken a long life as well as a very lonely one. But back to Norse mythology again, Lysander might also be referencing Odin, as he sacrificed an eye for wisdom, and Odin also roamed the world for a long time. Side Mission 45 is likely a reference to the OG Thirsty Guard from Gen 1 that didn't let us enter Saffron City. Side Mission 55 is likely a reference to the movie Piranha, with Side Mission 115 possibly mentioning general kaiju movies such as the Godzilla franchise. The clothing here references Jurassic Park, Robocop, Godzilla vs King Kong, and Sharknado. Side Mission 33 likely references the game Magikarp Jump. Side Mission 107 can be a general reference to powerful Pikachu like Ash's or Red's. PC boxes are also mentioned here, and PJ Mail might be a reference to the Carrying On episode from the anime series. There is also a cool reference to the Pokelids that can be found through Japan, through, well, Lumiose's own Pokelids. Michael Jackson is kinda referenced here through Smooth Criminal, and maybe a prediction of the future through the Art Thieves, Pokemon Future Sights once again. But anyway, those are all the references I could find, but there is this one that I think I've seen before, but I can't really put my finger on it. So if you have any idea of what's going on here, please let me know in the comments. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for your support, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and well, I hope I see you all on the next one. But before I go, I want to thank my YouTube member Good Old Deo and my Twitch subscribers Nubis here, Zanes222, Lazarix, Dr. Joe, Dark Puffy 1, Ventura, Blinkfish, Streamer Maxis Back, and Official Noise for going that extra mile. Thank you so much for all of your support.